Welcome to Campus Talks. This is the channel for you. If you're looking at the right information or where to get the right information or tip to move into school and how to ensure that you do the right thing in school, make good grades, balance your school life, social life, and academic life while in school, and then get prepared for the life out there after school. This is the best channel for you. If you're an old subscriber, well done. You're the motivation why we always put out premium content here. If you're a new subscriber or you're just new on this channel, rather, kindly click on the subscription button. I would love to have you here and you'll be able to watch our videos. So, in our previous video, we dealt with overview of what a research project is. Actually, in your final year, you'll be expected to do this before you graduate. So we had to take you through the outline of the research project, what it is, why it's important, and the outline. And we also dealt with why it should differ from faculty to faculty. And this is the reason why once you get your topic, the next thing you should do is to ask around to see the structure that your faculty uses. So very quickly we'll move into the introduction, which is the chapter 1. Remember I said in my last video that you still have preliminary pages where you have your, but those ones are not the big deal. So you have your certification, dedication, acknowledgement, you have your table of contents there, and then abstract is also there as well. We'll deal with abstract in a separate video. Abstract is just a summary. So, what's the purpose of this introduction chapter? The purpose is to provide context for your research, just like a foundation. Uh, it clearly states the problem being addressed and then outlines the study objective and significance. It serves as the foundation that justifies your entire research project. What are the key components of this chapter 1? So this chapter 1 has some I would just say sub chapters under it. So you're going to have background of the study, and then you're going to have your problem statement, you're going to have your research questions, your research objective, and then you have your significance. For some people, you see something like justification. So that's why I said it's important to actually, the best way to do it is to maybe reach out to someone who has graduated before you to see the structure they used. For me, this is the best way and this is the best recommendation I always give students that come around. And you have your scope limitation, definition of terms. So whatever thing that will differ may not differ too much. Like I said, the outline of every research project, no matter the discipline you're coming, is almost the same, like 95% the same. It's just slight differences. So we'll move straight to the next slide where we are going to be looking at the background to the study. So this is 1.0, this is chapter 1. What's the background of this study? This provides context and foundational information for the research topic. It explains where your research journey started and why you became interested in the topic. What should you include? Here you're expected to include historical context and current trend. This is very important. Numbers are needed here, trends are needed here, and I'm going to explain this in detail. You also need relevant theories and previous research, events or observations that led to the study. For example, if you're actually working on effects of social media on academic performance of students, effect of social media on academic performance of students, it is ideal that you start by discussing the rise of social media platforms, because you're trying to create a foundation. So you're trying to introduce this concept. So the rise of social media, the integration into our daily life, how it's important, how it grew, the type of social media platforms, the ones students use more, initial observations about their influence on youth behavior and academic focus. And remember, you're getting this from literature, and I'm going to show you that in a separate video, how to visit Google Scholar. Get first of all, go and type that your topic, enter Google Scholar. That will be in the next video we're going to look at. We're going to look at Google Scholar. Once you get your topic, just type in your topic into that database. It's free of charge. Get it there, and you see so many articles about that same topic that you have. So all you do is to look at how the introduction is, and then pick one or two from each of them. Let's say you've downloaded 20 articles. With the 20 articles, you can use it to build your own introduction or chapter one by picking, paragraph by paragraph and comparing ideas and the rest. So I'm going to show you that in a separate video. But this is what you're expected to do in this section called background of the study under your chapter one. Another example is if you're looking on climate change policy, you can actually trace the history of climate change awareness, international agreements, like the Paris Accord and the rest. If you are coming from the social sciences or maybe the public health sector or discipline, you're working on, let's say, the prevalence of depression um, among secondary school students, it is ideal that you start talking about mental health, what WHO says mental health is about, depression is a part of mental health, so and so people are depressed, and then you talk about link depression. First of all, you link depression to adolescents because these are the set of people you get in secondary school, and then you can now start with trend. Remember, historical context have been touched by the time. If you look at the first example we had about social media, you give history of how this began. The same thing with depression. You define it, talk about it, and then current trend. I always advise students to, whenever you're dealing with current trend, let's say you're working on this depression among secondary school students in, let's say, Enugu State. So what you need to do is, for current trend, you actually start from globally. So you can make statement like globally, uh, or according to WHO, 32,000 secondary school students are turned out to have depressive symptoms. Or globally, or WHO have stated that the prevalence of depression among secondary school students is this. Uh, and then you now start comparing. In countries, in the developed countries like United States of America, this level of depression is quite low. So and so study identified a prevalence rate of 15%. However, in sub-Saharan Africa or in Africa and Asia, this disease is the prevalence in Africa is a bit higher, up to this disease maybe 30 percent prevalence in Asia. So look at trend and all those. These are the things you're expected to discuss, and then you look at how the academic performance, uh, now your study may have also been done by someone else, but possibly in another location. So this is why you actually need to do that Google Scholar search and see. So you can actually state here and now start discussing what other people have done. So this is what an overview of the background of the study. And from this background of the study, the next thing is a problem statement. So if your background of the study is 1.1, your problem statement is 1.2. This is just a clear, concise description of the issue or gap that your research aims to address. It identifies what is going on or what knowledge is missing in your field. What are the characteristics of a good problem statement? It is specific, it is measurable, that is, it can be investigated empirically. This means this problem exists. A lot of authors have captured it in literature. It is relevant, important to the field, and it is time bound, considers current context. So it's not something that for instance, we are moving into the era of AI and the rest, and you can't be telling us if you're working in the computer science field, you can't be talking about things like uh, cyber cafes that we actually, or monitor, the use of monitor when we are even moving higher to laptops and the rest. So you should consider current context. And an example, still on the social media impact study on students, just a line to, despite widespread use of social media among university students, there is lack of empirical evidence quantifying its direct impact on academic performance, leading to uncertainty for educators regarding effective intervention strategies. For the climate change study, you can have existing national climate change policy have not achieved the emission reduction target primarily due to insufficient enforcement mechanisms, hindering the country's ability to meet international climate commitment. Now, remember, this is a full thesis that you're writing. So I'm just bringing out line to give you idea. But then in reality, you're expected to expand. Uh, your introduction chapter shouldn't be anything less than 1,500 to 2,000 words. Shouldn't be less. It shouldn't be less than 1,500 words. Your introduction as a whole. So you also have research questions and objectives. What are your research questions? So immediately after your problem statement, I always advise that the next thing you have is your 1.3, where you now have uh, the aims and objectives. Objectives should come first. But if you're in the social sciences, probably or likely the research questions is expected to come first before the objectives. So for your aim of the study is same thing as your objectives. And so let's look at the difference between your research questions and research objectives. And I will say at this point, if you want to write a research project, please go to your departmental library and pick the research projects other people have done. If you do this, you have solved 20% of your problem, because this will clear the issue of this outline. Okay, your research questions is usually your objective in a question form. For instance, if we have your objective as to determine the correlation between hours spent on social media platforms and GPA among undergraduate students, your research question will now be, what is the relationship between daily social media usage and academic performance of university students? You see how they are related. For your the climate change study, you can have to analyze the impact of existing enforcement mechanisms on achieving emission reduction targets. Now your question will be, how do current enforcement mechanisms affect the effectiveness of climate policies? If we are still looking at the depression study, one of our objectives can be to determine the prevalence of depression among secondary school students in Enugu State. Your research question will now be, what is the prevalence of depression among secondary school students in Enugu State? So from here, we'll move to significance of the study. This explains why your research is important and who will benefit from its finding. It answers the crucial question, so what? Why should anyone care about this research? So that's the significance. And what do you need to include here? You need to include contributions to knowledge and theory. Yes, after conducting this research, you will contribute to knowledge and theory, practical implications for stakeholders, policy relevance and potential impact. So if you discover that maybe you're working on comparing depression among secondary school students from private and public, and you realize that public school students are more depressed, to some extent, it may inform policy. The government can look on this to tailor their own intervention and say, okay, we need to now put more, look at the mental health of students in public schools in the country. So societal, okay, policy is there. So by doing that, you've also contributed to policy. Societal beliefs and applications is there as well. Once again, for the social media study on CGPA of students, findings will, this is an example, finding will inform university policies on digital literacy, help students manage social media use effectively, and provide evidence-based data for parents and educators. It contributes to the growing body of literature on technology impact on education. So, scope, limitation, and definition of terms. For the limitation, scope and limitation, for the scope, this defines the boundaries of the study. Now, when you're developing a proposal, so let me also explain this. The first thing your supervisor is going to ask you to do is to give him your chapter 1 to 3. Now, that's your chapter 1 to 3 is what we call your research proposal. It is what you are proposing to do this research. And in your chapter 1, you are giving background. In your chapter 2, you are going, chapter 2 is literature review. You are reviewing what other people have said about this. Is it worth going for and the rest? And by your chapter 3, you're already telling your supervisor that this is how you are going to do this. And your chapter 3, while at the proposal level, is usually in future tense, you get. And your limitation is also supposed to come in your chapter 1. But the moment you finish your result, your discussion, and you have your full thesis, please go back and change your chapter 3 to past tense. For instance, during the proposal stage, you said, I'm going to mix let's say 2 cl or 2 ml of sodium and 2 grams of sodium, 2 ml of chlorine to get a solution to dilute blah 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 blah. You're using future tense, but immediately you have done that, you're now saying um 2 grams of sodium was melted and this was done. So you're now using past tense. Now you can bring your limitation at that point and put it at the end of your discussion. So once again, we'll look at that later. Now, scope defines the boundaries of the study. What will be included? Limitation acknowledges potential weakness or constraints of the study. Now, definition of terms provides clear definitions for key concepts. For instance, I'll give you, with the social media study, your scope is just undergraduate students at specific university. Social media usage measured by self-reported hours, academic performance by CGPA. For limitation, reliance on self-reported data, cross-sectional design, no causality. For terms, definition of terms, you just pick the terms there. For instance, social media is a key term there. Facebook, Instagram, cumulative CGPA, these are things you define for your reader to understand. In the depression among secondary school students study, you can define depression and other key things there. So, once again, thank you very much for joining us in this chapter 1. I believe you've really learned 1 and 2, and by now your research project is actually making sense to you. Please follow us. In our next video, we'll be going into chapter 2, which is literature review, and we may also look at going into Google Scholar, how to move into Google Scholar, type in your topic and download research that other people have done, similar research to your own topic, so that you now see how to pick things from each of these research. If you're an old subscriber, I'd like to appreciate you. You are the reason why we are motivated to put content up here every time. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Campus Talks. Want to assure you that following us ensures that your journey in school will be smooth. Please don't forget to subscribe and recommend our channel to people out there. Until we meet again in our next video, for now, I'll say bye.